Hey there. How you doing? How's your Sunday? I mean, mine's fine. It's been a while since we've had a video, so here's a little video for you right now. Today we're going to talk about our three good friends, Ethos, Pathos, and Logos, or Ethos, Pathos, and Logos. I don't really pronounce ancient Greek perfectly. So I use long vowels, ethos, logos, pathos, and I move on. Now, some of you have probably heard these terms before. If you happen to be one of my seniors, you've definitely heard these terms before. And so some of this may be review, but I want to make sure that I kind of introduce these terms or reintroduce these terms so that we're all on the same page. We can all use the same vocabulary because over the next, weeks and weeks, we're going to be working through the bones of rhetoric, like what actually composes it. We're going to analyze it, see how it works. But this is not the end. The end here is not to just understand how rhetoric works, but it is to produce effective, rhetorically powerful documents ourselves. We want to be able to understand it, and we also now want to be able to use it. So that's where we're going. That's kind of the trajectory of this, is we're going to analyze it, then we're going to create it. And so keep that in mind. If you're like, I already know all of this already. I'm an expert. If you're making that sound inside, first of all, why are you making that sound inside? But second, this is not the end. It's not just to understand how it works. It's to understand how it works in order to be able to use it. So with that being said, let's take a look at some stuff. Cool, great. I'm going to share my screen. Whoop. Okay, you probably recognize this bad boy. Well, some of you might. It's a triangle, and it's a rhetorical triangle. Now, we, at the beginning of the semester, talked about, you can see speaker and audience and message. I think we said purpose. We talked about these things. Speaker, remember, is the one persuading. The audience is the one being persuaded. And the message is what you're trying to communicate, what you're trying to persuade the audience to believe or agree with or do. Okay. And so when we're looking at this now, we're going to add three elements. We're going to add what are called rhetorical appeals. And this is really simple. If rhetoric is how we persuade people, the means we use to get people to think and do and believe what we want them to. Appeals are what we're appealing to, or to use, I guess, slightly more aggressive language, the areas that we're targeting. Like, what are we trying to get at in order to influence your thoughts or actions? So we have three. You can see them. We have up here ethos, logos, and pathos. So we'll just start up here at the top with ethos. Now you'll notice that ethos is connected to the speaker. That's because ethos here means specifically appealing to the audience via the credibility of the speaker. In other words, I'm trying to get you to believe me or agree with me because you trust me. So when a doctor tells you, hey man, you got to cut out saturated fats, part of the reason that you are persuaded is because she's a doctor. She went to medical school. That gives her a great deal of credibility or believability, which makes it more persuasive for her to speak. If I start talking to you about the need to reduce saturated fats in your diet, you may or may not be persuaded by me because, dude, I'm an English teacher. I didn't go to medical school. So my ethos there is lessened. My ability to create ethos is diminished by my position. However, right now, when I'm talking about the rhetorical triangle, I should be moderately persuasive because, like, I'm an English teacher. I should know this stuff. But I can give you more information to kind of make myself more credible, to increase the amount of ethos that I'm producing. I can say I've been teaching rhetoric since 2005. It's 15 years. Generally speaking, if somebody's done something for 15 years, they probably have a fair amount of knowledge about it. Makes them pretty credible, increases their ethos. So Ethos then is the credibility of the speaker. And how does that appeal to the audience? You should believe me because of who I am. Now, and a lot of people think about ethos and it sounds a lot like ethics, and we do get that word. That word does come from ethos. But if you think about what ethics means, ethics is this kind of way of evaluating right or wrong action. And so an ethical person is a person who acts ethically. In other words, they do the right thing in the right in depending on the circumstances. They do the appropriate thing for any given set of circumstances. They are a good person, a trustworthy person, a reliable person, therefore a credible person, therefore you believe them, right? So ethos is about the speaker's credibility. The reader should, the reader's trust is being played upon. They're targeting who the speaker is to appeal to the reader, right? Okay, so ethos, credibility. Do you believe? Why should you believe this speaker? What about the speaker makes her credible? Okay, that's ethos. Now, if you'll go over to the audience, you'll see pathos. And these are emotional appeals. Pathos, we get the word like passion and sympathy and empathy, because pathos is the feeling word. So to create pathos, we're appealing to the audience's emotions. We are targeting their feelings in order to persuade them. So if I want you to give money to my charity, I'm going to show you pictures of people that are suffering that my charity helps. That appeals to your sense of pity. That appeals to your sense of justice. That appeals to your sense of needing to protect the weak. I'm playing on your emotions to persuade you. So the speaker appeals to the emotions of the reader. This creates pathos, or a pathetic appeal, or an emotional appeal to the reader. If you've ever seen a commercial in your life, somebody has been trying to create pathos in order to get you to buy whatever they're selling, right? And it's all sorts of ways, but they're going around your rational mind to your feelings. Okay, pathos is very effective when persuading people because we are largely driven by emotions, and therefore if I can get you to emotionally want to believe or do something, you're very likely to do this. It's like, come on, don't do this to me, but I'm your friend. You know, that kind of thing. That's creating pathos. That's producing that emotional reaction in the audience to get them to believe or do what I want. And like I said, advertising is like 90% pathos. It's 90% emotional appeals. And we'll talk about this later. And then finally, the actual message, the actual purpose is also connected with logos. And we get the word logic from this, but these are the facts. This is where we appeal to the rational mind. This is where we're using rational thought, rational arguments, logical structures to persuade. Okay, now that's pretty straightforward. If I say 20% of the people who use this product see a immediate improvement in their health and well-being, I'm using facts. I'm appealing to rational thought. Okay, so and that's pretty much straightforward. Anytime you're using data, anytime you're using statistics, anytime you're presenting material in a rational or logical manner, that's logos. That's the actual I mean, it means word. Really, like the Greek word logos means word. So it's actually the specific content of your message, but it's also the facts that you use to create a logical appeal is logos. Okay, so let's go over it again. Ethos, credibility of the speaker. Pathos, emotions of the audience. Logos, the rational core of the argument. That's what those three appeals are. Now, really quickly, let me just say this. In the actual world of rhetoric, these never, ever work independently. They always work in concert. They work together. So if I'm trying to persuade you to give to my charity that fights drunk driving, okay, so that's what I'm trying to do. I may create ethos by telling you that I lost my brother in a drunk driving accident. That creation of ethos also produces a pathetic appeal, an emotional appeal, because you may feel sorry for me for losing a family member. You may imagine how bad it would be to lose a family member. You may have lost a family member. We may have a sympathetic reaction. So that's an emotional appeal. That's also a fact. It's also logos. I'm also creating logos because I'm telling you that I have losses. This has happened to me. So that example of the reason I founded this organization is because I lost my brother, and I don't want people to go through that. That is ethos, pathos, and logos all working together. And so when we're analyzing, we'll often pull out and say, here's an example of the author trying to create ethos. Here's an example of the author using an emotional appeal. And here's an example of the author using creating logos to persuade his audience. But when we're creating rhetoric, when we're producing our own, we're often going to try to bundle these things together. When we see it in the real world, you're going to see it bundled up together. I mean, my favorite example of the combination of logos and pathos in a central appeal is the statistic that in Dallas County, 1 in 5 children are food insecure. And I remember this statistic. I heard it on the radio. It must have been 12 years ago, but it sticks with my head because it is a fact. It is a logical appeal. They're going to tell you, look, 1 in 5, that's going to indicate it's 20%. It's a high percentage of children in a county to be food insecure, but it's a fact. They're going to say, like, look, here's the actual data. Here's the actual facts. It's appealing to my rational brain because it's grounding it in fact. But then that creation of a logical appeal also creates an emotional appeal, because then you think about children, little kids, 5-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 6-year-olds, not knowing if they're going to eat tomorrow. And you think, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Then I would look at my classroom of 30 kids, and I would realize that that's 6 kids in that classroom. By that metric, that means 6 of those 30 kids are food insecure just by the statistical breakdown of that group. You know, it's like thinking about what 20% looks like. And that would also be like, oh, I can't believe they're suffering. So it's this simple fact, this simple development of a logical appeal. Look, it's 20%. It's a big number that also packs this emotional punch. And the fact that it stuck with me for 12 years, the fact that it does not leave my head, shows you how effective that combination of multiple appeals can be. Of course, what I'm also not saying is that the source of that, where that information came from, was a nonprofit organization that was working to raise money for hungry people in Dallas County. That organization, therefore, already created their ethos, so they're credible. So when they deliver the fact, I believe it, and then that increases the emotional impact, and they've completely persuaded me. I think I donated money, if I'm not mistaken. So that's how this is going to work. So hopefully this chart, we've put it on the Canvas page so that you can see it. And so we'll try to remember this is the language we're going to be using. And I hope that you've noticed really quick while I went through this, that I didn't say that you use ethos or you use pathos or you use logos, you create it. The speaker creates these appeals. These are things that are being created by them. They're not being used, they're being created. I'm creating an ethical appeal. I'm creating an emotional appeal. I'm creating a logical appeal. I'm not using logos. I'm creating that appeal. I'm producing that reaction in my audience so that they see me as credible, so that they connect emotionally with what I'm talking about, so that they see the facts of the matter at hand. So this probably went too long, but whatever. It is what it is. It's Sunday, and I like talking to you, even if it's talking to my screen. Anyway, just know that Miss Wyke and I, we love you. We want the best for you. And yes, that was an emotional appeal, but it's also true, which is also me creating ethos, which is also a fact, which is also logos. So there you go. There's 3 appeals. Anyway, have a super great day. And when you watch this video, it may not be Sunday, but I hope you're having a very fun day. Love you. Mean it. Bye.